Good evening, everyone. We warmly welcome all of you to the second virtual webinar organized by the Kennel Club of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. Firstly, I would like to start off by giving a brief introduction to the Kennel Club of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. The Kennel Club of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia is a non-profit animal rescue organization, and we are proud to say that we are the only school in the island that has an organization such as this to look into the welfare of street dogs and cats. As its main service to the kennel community, the club has organized multiple sterilization programs in various places across the country, such as Pilayandala, Panadura, Kalutara, Mount Lavinia, Detalava, Bandaravela, Badulla, Norelia, Haputale, Anuradhapura, Ella, Haleella, and Uva Kandagura. Through this program, the club has been successful in sterilizing over 1,800 dogs, a feat no other similar school club has ever managed to accomplish. Apart from organizing sterilization programs, rehoming puppies to ensure the safety and welfare of them, and donating funds for the treatment of injured dogs are the other activities the club is involved in. The club also organizes several fundraiser activities on a frequent basis, such as selling t-shirts, stickers, bookmarks, donation cards, showcasing suitable movies, and hosting dog show events in collaboration with the Sri Lankan Canine Unit in order to ensure that the aforementioned projects and programs are carried out successfully. The club also receives generous amounts of donations and sponsorships from various people and organizations. And it must be mentioned that all funds gathered are solely dedicated towards the above mentioned programs. So that's the brief introduction about the Kennel Club. So next, I would like to call upon the Vice President of the Kennel Club, S.C. Dwarahan, to take over the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Sada. So, as you may know, a lot of people buy pedigree dogs on a whim after watching some cute video about some particular breed, seeing their friend's dog, or even as a means of showing off their status. And they do so without really knowing how much of effort, money, and care needs to be given to maintain them. So long as this demand for pedigree dogs still exists, breeders will keep creating more pups by force, resulting in both the pups and their parents being kept in inhumane conditions to be bred. After the dog's condition deteriorates due to negligence and being used too frequently for breeding, these breeders simply abandon these dogs in some random location without even a second thought. Even many new buyers who buy them abandon these dogs after being unable to cope up with the cost and effort it takes to take care of them. This is where Tales of Freedom comes into play. So Tales of Freedom is a non-profit organization founded in 2018, which focuses on rescuing, rehabilitating, and rehoming pedigree dogs. Although there are many organizations which mainly treat and vaccinate street dogs across Sri Lanka, Tales of Freedom is the only organization which mainly dedicates itself towards the welfare of pedigree dogs. Those of you who came with us to visit their rescue dog 2 years ago in the Best Care Animal Hospital in Polga, Sovita, know about the traumatic lives some of these dogs have previously been through, and the amazing job Tales of Freedom has done in rehoming these dogs, and also about how much of love and attention they give to these abused and exploited dogs. So we are pleased to welcome today none other than the founder of Tales of Freedom, Shilpa Samaratunga, one of the most ardent animal rights activists in Sri Lanka, to conduct this webinar. A past student of Bishop's College, she has dedicated a major part of her life to the welfare and rescue of animals, and has worked in both collaboration with other organizations and also independently to uphold animal welfare in Sri Lanka. She's also been actively taking part in advocating for reforms in animal rights legislation in our country. Even a few months back, she created a lasting impression on the treatment of animals by authorities when she, along with Ms. Othara Gunawardena, met with the DIG of police for discussion and stopped police dogs from being auctioned off after retirement. Amidst the hectic life she leads, she still manages to take care of more than 30 rescued dogs and cats she has took into her own home, something that most of us can't even imagine of. But above all, recently she made a decision to quit her corporate job to dedicate all her time and attention to animal welfare, a sacrifice that only a few could ever make, and one worthy of a great deal of applause and appreciation. So now I'd like to invite Shilpa to take over the meeting and to share with us today her inspiring story. Over to you, Shilpa. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. Firstly, thank you so much for that introduction and for having me here. I do have to point out I'm not from Bishop's College. I'm quite the opposite. It's Ladies College.
Really sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna start off. I think some of you, how many of you actually came with us, came to the kennels 2 years ago? Was it like a few of you or most or? Okay, so quite a few, okay. So I'm just gonna start, I'm gonna share my screen and I'm just gonna go through, I have a very kind of general presentation for you, just of what Tales of Freedom does and the kind of things that we come across. And then I'm gonna leave most of the time for you to, if you have any questions or anything like that. Does that work?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So who we are as an organization is that we're a registered charitable organization in Sri Lanka. So we have official bank accounts. We are registered. We're also, like I said in the intro, we're the only organization that focuses on just pure breeds. And this actually happened because I think about 5 years before we started Tales of Freedom, I used to work with mostly street animals, but we realized that there were more and more breeds coming into, falling into the street. So we found a lot of German Shepherds and Great Danes and things, which we were not finding before. So as an organization, what we also feel free to jump in and ask me any questions if you have any during the presentation or if something is unclear. What we do is that we are primarily a rescue organization. So if someone finds a dog on the street, what they will usually do is they will call us or another activist or someone will call us. And if we, most of the time we say yes, we get a vehicle out there, get the dog into hospital, treat them, and usually we sterilize them and then we find them a home. It's a little different from street dogs because there's a lot of, basically the pedigree dogs are not as strong usually as in internally their health is not as good as that of a street dog. So we find a lot of problems from tick fever to rashes. So it takes us a longer time to treat them than it would usual like a street dog that we would find. We push for better policies. So we work a lot with the welfare, the current animal cruelty law, is close to useless. There's not much we can do with it because the fine is only 100 rupees for any kind of cruelty. So we've been working with a lot of other organizations to push for the new welfare law to come in, but it's going to take some time still. We do spay neuter clinics when possible. So last year we responded to some issues in Horana where there was a rabies outbreak from the jackals that actually were biting the street dogs, and then it was spreading. So due to COVID-19, usually the PHIs are able to vaccinate the street animals regularly, but they were not able to do so because of the lockdowns and COVID. So rabies had started to spread in the area. So I think last year we did maybe collectively in Panadura, Horana, and Arugambe, we worked and did maybe about a little over 1,000 sterilizations in the space of maybe about 15 days. Then we work in education and we do sessions like this. We haven't, of course, been able to do very much since lockdowns, but that's something that we definitely want to focus on and will expand in the future, hopefully. Especially for young people who want to, in the future, work with animals, that's something that we really want to focus on. To show you show them the gamut of things. It's not only that you can become a vet, but there's so many other options that you can take on as a career as well, if you want to work with animals. So we kind of want to open that up to more young people in Sri Lanka. And then the last kind of really obscure thing that we do is we work in disaster response for animals. So we haven't done that for a while, but in the 2016 and 2017 floods, we were pretty active, not as Tales of Freedom. We were called Rescuing Animals in Disasters, but now it has come under Tales of Freedom. So I'm going to just go over the really, does anyone have any questions, or am I going too fast?
No, it's
no? Okay, okay. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the two really obscure sections. This is when I didn't shave my head. So this is still me, but I had hair. This is 2016 floods, 2017 floods. This was some of the response that we did along with, some of it was along with Embark. Some of it was with Best Care Animal Hospital. But we are looking into actually reaching out more with the Disaster Management Ministry to do a little bit more of this work. Then this is how our community spay neuter programs work. All the programs are done actually in an air-conditioned bus. We don't do our surgeries outside. There's we go set up for, usually we try to do a 10-day program rather than a 1-day or a 2-day, but occasionally we do 1 or 2 days also. So this is Panadura and Horana, I think, where I live in Panadura. So our focus was really to try and bring down the numbers there, but the ministry also asked us to work with to help Horana out because there was a rabies outbreak. So this is half in Panadura, half in Horana. This is last year. Then to get to really what we do at Tails, so I think there was a short description of what we do. We work with animals who are bred. We work with, we don't work with breeders necessarily, but we would really like to start working with more breeders for them to, because we want to bring in laws that regulate what they do so that there are people who go and check and that they, they have, if say they breed one dog, that they have the proper vaccines for it. The animals are given, the puppies are given at the right time. Because how many of you have dogs? All of you? Lots? Okay. How many of you got the pups under the age of 8 weeks? So under 2 months. Okay, so quite a lot of you, right? Normally in out of Sri Lanka, when there are, if you have actual registered breeders, the right age to adopt a dog is between the ages of 8 and 12 weeks, not younger than that, because they have, but the problem is that they are widely available here at even 3 or 4 weeks. And at that age, they are not well socialized. They can have issues with socialization later on. They can have issues with behavior. They can have issues with just their health. So that is kind of the side of the breeders that we want to work with, or that we would, well, there's none that we have actually found at the moment that we can call responsible breeders. So that's quite a little bit of work that we need to do, but responsible breeders do exist. The idea of a responsible breeder exists. We just have to get our breeders to that space. We have a huge problem with irresponsible pet ownership here. Actually, more than the breeders, we have a lot of people who buy animals and then don't know how to take care of them, who don't understand the breed that they are getting. So if you get a beagle, the difference between a beagle and a German Shepherd and a Great Dane is huge. The same amount, it's not the same kind of care, it's not the same kind of food, it's not the same kind of health issues. So a lot of people don't do their research before they get the dog. And then once they get the dog, all of these issues come up, and they are not, they don't act on it early enough because they just don't know. And then it comes to a point where there's a lot of issues with the dog when they're older, and it's harder to fix. Sometimes you can't fix it. So we have, I'm just going to give you a short description of how we have what we call breeders, and we separate them into two, well, actually 3 sections. There's breeders who are responsible breeders. There are ones that we call backyard breeders, who are not necessarily breeding, 10, 20 dogs. They're breeding 1 or 2. It's like a dog that they got from a friend or something that they're breeding, but they have absolutely no idea of how to take care of that dog, or the puppies or anything like that. They just sort of have this dog. They know that it's not a regular street dog, so you can make some money off it. But beyond that, they don't know anything about it. Then there are ones we call puppy mills, which are huge, like large scale breeders, which is like some places I've seen and heard have over 100 animals that are bred. And into that section falls the stud farms as well, where you have only males or only females, mostly only males. And you give them out to owners who want like smaller breeders who just need a male for that. Like sometimes it can go up to over 100,000 or 200,000 rupees just to rent that animal for a short time, but they live in terrible conditions. And there's no actual check of, even if they've so. A lot of the puppies that come from pet shops and all always have parvo. And that comes from just not doing their vaccines and things properly. So we are an organization that really likes to work with other organizations where possible, because ours is not the only issue. And actually we work closely with organizations like Dogstar and Embark and different things, because we are the only ones that work specifically with breeds. So if they find a breed, usually it's a case that they don't want to take on or they can't take on at the time, they will pass it on to us. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. So pet shops, is there anyone here who hasn't seen a pet shop here? No, right? I'm sure you've all, Mount Lavinia itself has a couple of lovely places. So this is, I think a couple of these were actually taken there, but there are also, I mean, these are all different kinds of places. And you can see how in a pet shop, you can see normally the flooring shouldn't be this kind of crate thing because they get their feet stuck in them. And sometimes we've had dogs that have come with like the bottom of their paw pads completely come off because they get stuck in these little grooves. So they should ideally have a flat floor, but they don't. And all of these, I mean, everything from these, there's no health checks on these dogs. They just kind of get dogs from various owners, put them in a cage for the day, send them back in the evening if they haven't been sold. A lot of them, honestly, the puppies don't survive a lot of these litters, but because they breed them every single cycle and you're not supposed to, I mean, usually they breed them, if you do it the right way, you're only supposed to breed a dog maybe 2-3 times in their whole lives, and then you retire them. You don't breed them every cycle until they collapse, which is what happens here. So actually with tails, most of the dogs that we get puppies very rarely. If we do get puppies, they're in very, very bad condition. But what we mostly get are the mothers and fathers of these dogs, of the puppies that you see in pet shops and things. So they, when they can't produce anymore, when they're not healthy enough or they're too old, they put them out on the street. And then that's kind of where we end up getting them. So that's why we always say, we feel really sorry when we see puppies like this in this condition. But if you go and pay for one of these puppies and then you take them, I think in our minds, we feel bad and we feel like we have rescued them. But what we do is we actually put money in the hands of somebody who is tomorrow going to breed another dog, or maybe 2 dogs, because then he's got the money to, say you buy one of these dogs for say 30,000 or 40,000 rupees, which is the usual, the mid-range price. He can go and get another adult dog tomorrow and breed twice as many puppies. So what you did the first day, you had 6 puppies, the next day you'll have 12 puppies there. And they will continue to increase and share with, like, give more puppies and animals to their friends, and then they will breed. And at the moment, actually, we're having a very big issue because during lockdown, people can't leave their homes. Most of them are not going to work. So they have started breeding a lot. So during when we open up, I think we're going to see a huge influx of puppies in pet shops and things now. Then, so that was those were pet shops. This is where kind of the puppies actually come from. Can you see you can see the screen properly, right? The full screen? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, you can see some of the messages that people have put. You can say, this was a message that just came that we saw. And he has not spelled anything correctly to start with. But he's also wanting to exchange this puppy for a different puppy. So maybe this puppy is sick or something. And he's not, but we also have people who want to exchange. They will say, I have a mobile phone. Can you exchange the puppy for this model of phone? Or so they will exchange things, not just puppies for puppies, not puppies for money, but puppies for phones, puppies for laptops, puppies for various things. So that life is really not valued. It's just something that they exchange for something else. And depending on what is selling most at the moment, like if there's at the moment, there's a big interest in pit bulls, carny corsos, Dogo Argentinos, those breeds. So people will try and, sell, maybe I have even seen recently people trying to sell an entire litter of or a pregnant Rottweiler, saying, okay, take the mother, take the puppies, and we'll exchange them for one bull mastiff or something, or one American bully or something like that. Because that is what, like, the value is so little. It's just what makes them the most money at the time. So you can see the conditions. I mean, this is not really a great way to feed your puppies on a slab where you can fall off the roof at any time. She's actually on I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but this is a Rottweiler that's tied on the slab. That's a second floor of a house, a slab. There's no walls or anything around. And this is basically how she lives day in, day out. So I'm gonna just show you kind of what a puppy mill, the previous one, it could be puppy mills, but it could also just be backyard breeders. But these are, this is a case that came to us a little while ago. And I think one cat was rescued, one cat, the person would refuse to give up because with our really bad welfare laws, we can't really remove them also. If the owner says no and we can't push them into releasing the animal, then we are stuck at the moment. Whereas with the law, we should be able to remove them. But this is, as you can see, these are Persian cats. They're kept in a toilet. They're tied in a toilet. And this person just gets kittens of these two and sells them regularly. And that's, I mean, the thing is, when you go and look on Ikmang or you go and look at the pet shop, all you see is a nice little basket with a bunch of kittens. You don't see this reality of where the parents are living. This is a breeder that we have been following for a long time, called Jude in Nigambo. And this is the condition of how the dogs are. Oops, sorry. So there's over 100 dogs in this property. And this is how they live. They're never let out. So this is just this one place, but you can see that none of the dogs are in a very good state, and this is their entire life. They don't get taken out and allowed to run around. They just hose the cage down when they want to clean it. That's pretty much their entire lives. Sorry, again. So these are some of the cases that we have got. These are some of our rescues. The little puppy on this side is just 3 days old. And that's the age that they decided to give the puppy up at. But these are all different conditions of how we have found most of these animals. So I'm going to shift a little bit to what we do. So these are all animals we've rescued. Some of them we have managed to save. Some of them have not lived more than 24 hours, unfortunately. Then so because of these things, we try and do a little bit more education and awareness, especially in all 3 languages now. And we do little questionnaires and things just to get people to understand that by supporting a breeder, you're not doing the right thing in Sri Lanka right now, unless it's a family breeder that you know very, very, very well, and maybe they've bred their dog once or something. It's because our Sri Lankan dogs, our local breed, is really the best suited for this country. They don't have any issues. They're strong. They're really the best pets that you can have. But if you really must buy, and there are some people who insist they must have a Labrador, or they must have a Doberman. If that is the case, then know what kind of dog you're getting. and know how to take care of that dog. And this is kind of, we do a lot of different things to kind of get people to understand what it is or what they're doing when they're taking a dog in. This is a campaign that we came up with a little while ago. This was actually last year. So I think this lack of value of life goes across pet shops to breeders to even forcers. Service dogs get they work for their whole lives. They come here at a little over a year, I think at 9 months, I think maybe a little under a year, because that's when their training is over. And then they work for us until they're about 10 years old. And then when we can't work with them anymore, they get auctioned out. And they get auctioned out for something like, sometimes even 2,000, 3,000 rupees. So these are animals that have basically worked for us for free for their whole lives. And then they get auctioned out. So we actually found one of these auctions last year where 25 dogs got auctioned out. And this is actually a continuing campaign that we have actually asked recently also for the list of dogs. Unfortunately, due to lockdown, they're saying that they are a little bit busy with other things and they can't give us this list. But this is something that we're going to keep pushing for to make sure that these dogs get a proper retirement. Okay, so just to kind of sum up, there's a lot of ways that you can help. Main thing is, like, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, you can follow the work we do. So all our new rescues go up, everything we do, how they get adopted, all of that is up there. So share our posts. You can join the team. We're always looking for, it doesn't always have to be that you work with the dog. If you're good with graphic design, or you're good with, I don't know, you're good with dog behavior, or you're a good writer, or any kind of thing in any language, that's something that you can always get involved in. Adopt a rescue dog, of course, not necessarily our rescues, but any rescue dog, because that always takes one off the street. And that always, I know you guys are always like, you do the sterilizations and things really well. So it's always good to have a dog go into a good home. Well, the donate and hold a fundraiser for us, I think you guys have already done. So thank you. I mean, I'm going to end this here as quickly as possible, because I think the time I set for myself is up. Questions?
Yeah, before moving on to that, Shilpa, we would like to show a short video of our visit to Tales of Freedom in 2019.
Sure.
Yeah, so hope others also enjoy. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a second, Sada.
I wish somebody would have told me, babe, that someday these will be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. You don't know what you got till it goes, till it's gone. Someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of these good days. Wish somebody would have told me, babe, that someday these would be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of the good old days. I wish somebody would have told me, babe, that someday these would be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. 'Cause someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the
Yeah, hope you all enjoyed the video. Before moving on to the Q&A session, next, I would like to call upon Sarit Fernando, the current head prefect of college and the past president of the Kennel Club in 2019, to speak a few words. Sarit, over to you.
Hi guys, good evening. Great to see a number of you. Great to see you again, Shilpa. I think after about just a little less than 2 years, I think. But it was really great to see those photos of our visit to Tales of Freedom. And I was only there for a short period of time. But it was really great that I really, it felt great to have gone there and seen the amazing work that Tales of Freedom, led by Shilpa, is up to. And thank you so much for taking the time and coming here. It's great to hear that you've left your corporate job as well and dedicated your life full time to this. So I'm pretty sure the guys have some great questions for you. They're all really passionate about street animals and the welfare of animals. And I think Shilpa is a great person to get your questions answered, guys. So back to Salanyan, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Sarit. So next, I would like to call upon our Assistant Secretary, Gimhan Fernando, to conduct the Q&A session. Gimhan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Salanyan. I received quite a lot of questions, so thank you to all those who sent in their questions. I really appreciate it. So I combined most of them and picked the most relevant and the important ones. So Shilpa, let's move on to the first question. Okay, so the first question is, well, the name of your organization is Tales of Freedom. When you pronounce it, it has a very soothing and a very pleasant effect. It gives a very pleasant effect. So how did you come up with this name?
Honestly, when we started Tales of Freedom, we didn't quite, the name and everything came with a couple of rescues. It wasn't with, we didn't really think about it too much when we started. It's just, I think one of our first rescues was a German Shepherd pup, and he's with me now. He's 3 years old, with back and hip issues. And I think it just came from, just seeing being happy that we could have, like, he was caged. He was initially in a place that didn't know how to look after him. He would have had some serious issues later on in life. And I think it just came from, a place of being happy and grateful that we could do something for him. And it just sort of rolled from there.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And the next question is, what inspired you to start this organization and how did it all start?
So like I said, I worked in, I got back from university from doing my degree in 2012. And since then I was sort of, I've always had a passion for animals, but I was never fully involved in the welfare community before. I always did things alone as a child, like I did rescues by myself. But the more I got involved in the community, I started my own rescue a couple of years later, and that was more to do with street animals. While I was doing that, I got hired by Embark. So I ran their rescues I ran the rescue side of things for about a year. And during that time was when I think we started getting more and more breed animals in. And I started realizing, like, because I used to do most of the budgets and costs and things like that. So I started seeing how much more expensive and how, in what bad condition these dogs were compared to a lot of the street dogs that we got, and how much more time it took to get them better. So I think it came from that, because I think I left Embark then and I went back to my corporate job, which is what I was doing before Embark as well. But this number of animals, these pure breeds, didn't stop. It was increasing more and more, and we were finding more on the street. So that was when we decided to actually start an organization to kind of, I actually started with it with another activist, but she left a couple of months after. And at the time it was just the two of us, but now I have a team of, I don't know, maybe about 10 people who do different things, from communications to fundraising to sales to different things.
And that's certainly great and inspiring. And also we received another question. While growing up during school life, have you ever thought that you will end up being a person like this will own an animal rescue organization?
I always felt like I always wanted to work with animals, but at the time when I was growing up, the only options that we knew of was to be a vet. And if you didn't, I did work at a veterinary clinic for a short time before university. And actually, when I was 13 years old, I started working at a veterinary clinic just to kind of understand if that was what I wanted to do. And I realized it wasn't, because veterinary science is great. And I have a lot of respect for vets, but what I wanted to do was spend more time with animals. And in a veterinary clinic, you have an animal come in, you treat them, they go out. But there is no space in Sri Lanka for things like veterinary nursing or hydrotherapists or behaviorists are having a little bit of a better time now. So it's, I never did think that I could do rescue and only rescue, but now I have 16, 17 dogs and 18 cats at home. So it's got to a point where I can't do any other work, because some of them are disabled, some of them some of them can't hear, some of them can't see. So I have to spend most of my day working with them. Plus I have Tales of Freedom separately, which is the rescue. So when I manage all of that, I don't have time to do anything else. So I've sort of just, I don't know, walked into this one, I think. I assumed I would work with animals, but I didn't think it would be to this extent.
Yeah, that's great. And we've received another, it's a very interesting question. What are some of the challenges you face from the society because of your work?
Okay. So we have a big issue with I know you must know a little bit about sterilization and the issues that people have with sterilization here, right? It's even more when we talk about sterilizing breed animals, because why would you sterilize something that can make you money, right? So we have, that's one of our biggest, like a lot of kind of ideas that society has. And with some people in Sri Lanka, animals fall firmly in the, this is a life and we need to value it category. But to a lot of people, they're like tables and chairs and cars and things that are there to use at the time that you want to use them. So that is a little bit of, that is a big issue that we come across. Fundraising is always an issue, because for some reason, everyone has this idea that we have a lot of money, which we don't. So yeah, those are some of the, really the biggest issue we have, like I said before, is the irresponsible ownership and people not understanding that everything they do, there's an impact that, them buying a puppy from a pet shop is not something that doesn't have an impact. Although a lot of people think that, it's just one dog, it's okay. It's sort of, it's when it's never just you. Someone will look at your puppy and think, I want a puppy like that. and they will go get a puppy. And then the breeders will get encouraged and breed more of them. So you have a huge ripple effect.
Yes. Yeah, certainly we can understand. And also the next question is, what's the craziest thing that has happened to you while working towards the brighter future of these neglected poochers, and also the memorable moment in your journey so far?
There's a few memorable moments. The memorable moments for me are really when some of the most abused animals that we get aggressive animals, and we get animals who are scared, but sometimes we get animals who are just really blank. They're not happy, they're not sad, they just have no response. I don't know how many of you followed Echo's story, the American bully that we rescued from Mount Lavinia, actually, last year. He had severe neurological issues. He had fits from being poisoned and beaten by his owners as a puppy, as a 3-month-old puppy, I think. So some of the most memorable things for me is when dogs like that actually wag their tail, or I remember those really, like those stick in my mind. The craziest thing was the 2016 floods were really, really crazy. Because I spent about 10 to 12 hours a day swimming in just flood water, and having to direct a boat, which I never thought I would ever have to do, direct a boat through the streets of Kaduela, which was just not something I thought I would ever have to do. And probably an equally crazy one is being chased by people who, when we go for cruelty calls and we ask them not to really ask why their dogs are caged and things, some people don't take advice very well. So I actually have been stoned and chased by a few people, a few owners. So that's that.
Well, that certainly is interesting. And also,
I'll give you a rough number for a year. We probably get close to about 100 a year of like really big kind of rescues, not like just the general, sometimes we get very small like ones where we just need to sterilize and rehome. But like the really big medical stuff, maybe close to maybe a little bit over 100 a year.
Okay. Also, we all know that the current pandemic has affected our lives, our day-to-day lives a lot. And because even as a club, we do a lot of sterilization programs usually, but due to the current pandemic, unfortunately, we are not able to. So how has COVID affected the process of rescuing dogs and finding them homes, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Initially, we had some trouble with, so the previous lockdown, we had a lot of trouble because we didn't have our own transport person. And we had to rely a lot on people going to see dogs. And then, so once we rescue and they're ready for adoption, people weren't able to actually go and see the dog that they wanted to rescue. But now we've sort of got an interim transportation, actually a guy and a van that we pay to take the dogs places so that we can actually sort that out without having, without getting too stuck. Transport was one of our biggest issues. We are having some serious issues now with medical equipment. Everything from even just bandages and plasters, they're not coming into the country anymore. And that we haven't overcome yet because unfortunately even eBay and things are not really, the deliveries are not really coming through. So that's something that we haven't fully overcome. Another, I think, issue that we are realizing is initially when we rescued dogs, if say we are going to rescue a dog from a person, we ask that they write us a letter and hand over the dog to us, the ownership of the dog to us, so that they don't have a say after that in what their medicals are, or if they get sterilized, or who we rehome to, or anything. Because we always do what's best for the dog. We don't really want to take the owners into account. This was prior to COVID-19. Now we're realizing that there are some really good owners who just over the last 2 years don't have the funds to take care of their pets anymore. So we have brought in a sort of new idea that we're testing, where we're trying to support, if we assess that they're really good owners and they're owners who are committed to doing the work necessary to help their dogs, then we've brought in something that kind of supports them. So if they can get the dog to the clinic or the veterinary clinic or do the work, we will help fund their medical treatment. So that's kind of a way that we've had to kind of change things as we go. And I think we're still evolving. It's this whole pandemic situation is still sort of evolving, and we're also kind of learning from it. So
Yeah, I understand. And also, would you mind sharing some ideas about what we can do as a club during the pandemic?
These sessions are really good. I think that you're like doing the awareness and wanting to learn. There's a lot of, when you say what can you do you mean, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean?
No, like since usually we do a lot of sterilization programs, but as you know, due to the current pandemic, we are not able to conduct any. So, like, if we can do anything virtually, what can we do?
Could you potentially create maybe some content around why sterilization is? Because I know you guys have a connection to Bandaravilla, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
So you have a connection to, and you do, I mean, some of the other private schools, like, I mean, I don't even like Ladies College or like Bishops or whatever. Not that you need them to, I know you've tried to get them to have a kennel club, and that has sort of been all over the place. But something you could do is try and create content by young people, for young people, on the importance of sterilization, on why you shouldn't be, because now there's huge influx of breeds, everyone's home breeding their dogs and their friends' dogs and things, why you shouldn't be buying those puppies and why that shouldn't be supported. If you create maybe like a trilingual set of just information that you can share with people, maybe. Because I know you can't physically do anything, but that's something that is really important. And it's something that when you do start your programs up again, it's something that you can make into maybe little print leaflets and share on site also, that educates people, because people like to take free leaflets home, and I don't know if they read it or keep their teacups on it, but you can still, I mean, you can try, you've tried. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Ms. Shilpa, for sharing your ideas. And now we'll move on to the last question, which is how can the public help in putting an end to animal abuse?
That's a very big question. So I think there's a lot of ways. One thing is support the organizations that are doing the work. Be kind to the organizations that are doing the work, because I think a lot of my team take a lot of they take a lot of negative emotional kind of and none of them are paid. We all do it voluntarily. So supporting organizations that do the work, obviously take the time to get to know the organization, know the people before you decide to just go blindly support them. But support them. I'd say if you know people in places that can affect the law, then always push for those things. For the, when we ask for the welfare bill and things, push for those things to go through. Talk about it to people. I know that, I think there's a lot of people that don't really read my posts anymore because while I talk about our animals. But if it makes a change to one person, then I think it still makes, I've still done my job. And I think there's a lot of, for people of your age, I think there's a lot of parents we see respond to their kids' needs to have a puppy, and it must be a Labrador, or have a puppy and it must be this sort of breed, or we must have a puppy now. But we have to, I think it's good that like you do this work, you understand things from like our perspective, from Otara's, from the different, rescue organizations and things, and you do your own work as well. So you kind of understand things from both sides. So if someone's going to buy a puppy, maybe talk to them and say, look, do you really have to do this? Or is it possible for, maybe we can find you a rescue puppy, or maybe we can find you even a breed rescue, but it's a rescue as opposed to, because if you have space in your home and you can look after an animal, then maybe, taking an animal off the streets rather than going and creating another litter is a better option. So those are things that you can do. As people of your age, it depends on, it's kind of a generational issue as well. Different people can do different things, but this is some of the things that you can do very easily and do right now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Shilpa. You made some very valuable points. So that's all the questions I've got for you, and that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you very much, Ms. Shilpa, for answering.
Thank you for having me and for asking all the questions.
And sharing your valuable ideas with us. And I'm sure everyone enjoyed this Q&A session and learned many new things. So thank you once again. And now I would like to hand over the proceedings back to Sadanil. Sadanil, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Gimhan. So next, I would like to call upon our Secretary, Shanuk Gunatilaka, to give up the vote of thanks. Shanuk.
Thank you, Sada. Good evening. On behalf of the Kennel Club of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, I would like to express our sincere thanks to Ms. Shilpa Samaratunga for sparing your invaluable time in order to be present at this very occasion. Thank you very much for making this event an inspiring and memorable one. The club would love to join with you in future sterilization programs and work towards the betterment of the lives of these innocent, neglected poochers. My heartfelt gratitude goes out to our teacher in charge, Mrs. Anne Senariratna, who has always supported us in numerous ways throughout the years. To our past president, Sarit Fernando, thank you for your encouraging words and support. I would also like to thank Charan Mendes for making the wonderful video, which was a glimpse of what the club has done together with TOF in the past, and Miran Pereira for creating the posts for the webinar. Also, a special thank you to every single one of you who participated in order to get to know Miss Shilpa's journey and tales of freedom and be inspired by it. We shall end the webinar now. Stay safe. Esto Perpetua.